Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking all about Moon Knight. We'll also be talking about what's coming up on Disney Plus in April. Plus, we've got some reviews to be talking about, including Cheaper by the Dozen and More Than Robots and some other bits and pieces. And we've also got the Miss Marvel trailer. It's actually been quite a little busy week. So before we do any of that, just a quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do subscribe here on YouTube or on the audio platforms. You can also find us on social media and obviously bookmark what's on disneyplus.com to keep up with all the latest. So let's jump into it. So let's first talk about Moon Knight. So this is coming up to Disney Plus on March the 30th, where we're getting the first episodes, with new episodes dropping weekly right through till May the 4th. So good 6 weeks. So I was lucky enough to be able to see the first 4 episodes. I'm not going to get into any spoilers. I can't go into anything like that or at all right now. I'll be trying to stay away from spoilers depending on week to week what we're talking about. But also, not only did I get to see that, I also got invited up last minute to London, where I took part in a premiere event where it was at the British Museum. And it was amazing because I've never been to that museum before, and it was all done up with blue lights, like Disney Plus with all the. And I mean, it was. I'll be honest. I said to my wife, I said like I thought like this in the movie because it was like a proper thing with like people walking around with plates of food in white tuxedos and offering you drinks and stuff. Never been. I was like never been to one of my life. I actually thought it was like am I in the right place? This doesn't feel right. But no, it did feel very just weird. We had the cast; they were there as well, and it wasn't just Oscar Isaac. We had Ethan Hawke. We also had a lot of other of the cast as well. Because at one point, just before we started watching, because we watched just 2 episodes in this big theater, like they got everyone to stand up, so there was like loads of cast there. So it's kind of weird watching the episodes with the cast. And you're kind of looking at them like going, okay. And it was like, okay, but it was great because it was like there was such an energy about watching it. And it's like thing of because I was like going, well, I've already seen these episodes. Am I gonna get like bored? Because it's like I don't tend to watch, especially not twice in a week. I don't tend to do that with episodes. But watching it on a big screen with everybody and everyone just like laughing along because there's a lot of like I would say British bits of humor and stuff. So I don't know whether or not and being in London and the first episode being set in London, there was a lot of stuff that like the locals were connecting to. So definitely feel like that was something. But yeah, so it was great. I mean, also just being able to walk around where it had all this like big Egyptian artifacts and stuff, which was just great. And not only that, but that's where they actually film the series as well. So that was kind of quite interesting with like you're looking and like watching it back then in the theater of the museum and kind of thinking, well, that's there. And like walking past the gift shop and where they're in it, and you're like, oh yeah, that was literally over the toilets, which is it was just like it was like really weird. And it was an amazing experience. And I can't thank Disney and Marvel enough for inviting me along because it was great. I mean, I can't wait for everyone to see this series. It's just really great. I really enjoyed it. I'm in that really like, and it sounds horrible to say, but it's like I've now got to wait like 5 to 6 weeks for episode 5 before I get it, and it left on a cliffhanger, and I'm like, what's happened? it's like I'm gonna wait. It's like I don't know what's worse. Like you guys have not seen it, are like I really want to watch it. It's like yeah, but I'm ready to go. It's like stopping a movie like midway and go right, okay, yeah, you're gonna wait a bit. So I'm really I can't wait for episode 5 when I get an episode 6 so I can finish off the series. I loved it. It's great.
Yeah, the torture of getting advanced copies. I don't know anything about that in regards to shows.
I know I shouldn't complain, but it really was that kind of thing of like because I was talking to somebody at the event and I was just like, I want to know what happens. So that's good. To me, that's like, if you've watched the first 4 episodes and you are desperate to watch the next episode, that shows that you are completely in on it. I'll be honest, had I not liked the series, I wouldn't have gone up to London because it would have been like, because it was a 6-hour round trip kind of thing. So it's like, and I was like, yeah, I'm there. I loved it. I loved, just kind of, it was just so weird, like watching it, especially, so seeing people on the stage and stuff. I just thought it was fantastic. So can't wait for everyone to start watching Moon Knight when it drops on March 30th. But like I said, I don't want to go into any spoilers or anything about the show or anything like that. But it's good. Right. Okay. So moving on from Moon Knight. This past week we also got the trailer for Miss Marvel. So this one broke on Monday. So I'll let you talk, James. What did you think of that trailer?
I enjoyed the trailer. It is very flashy. It was very straightforward. Really introduced Kamala to people who maybe haven't read her stories or know anything about her. It did look like they adjusted her powers a little bit, which was interesting. Not a problem with that. We'll just wait to see what they're doing with it. And I guess the only thing that bugged me at first, but I got fine with towards the end, was the putting the speech bubbles in the comic styling on it. But that really does fit with Kamala. So it's like, it looks a little silly, but it makes sense within this series. So I don't know. I am looking forward to it quite a bit. I saw a lot of positive buzz from people who normally aren't within the Disney sphere on it. So, friends groups, things like that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'll be honest, I watched it and I was like, cool, this looks different. And I know it's a bit of a standing joke right now of like, when every time something Marvel comes along, and I know people taking the mick out of me for saying it with Moon Knight, was like, yeah, it feels different. This one here, Miss Marvel, I'm only really familiar a little bit really because of recently like the Marvel's Avengers video game, where she's the main character in it. Like I say, they've changed the characters a little bit in terms of the powers. They're more cosmic, less Mr. Stretchy. We're not going for the Fantastic Four kind of Mr. Fantastic look. They really kind of shifted it up a little bit. But I'm fine with that. They change stuff for the movies all the time and TV series. Things sometimes work differently with visually of how things work. I'm sure they did some visual tests to work out and did some tests and work out like what looked good and maybe just didn't look very good the way that they were going to do it, or they're saving. I wouldn't necessarily say saving it for Mr. Fantastic, but that if that's a movie, they might have a bigger budget for the special effects. And that's the other thing, trying to keep the special effects. And I also wonder how this interconnects with like the Marvel's movie coming up of, connect. That might be an issue, but I'm fine with that. I thought it looked fun. I kind of felt a little bit like it was a bit TikTok-y, having the Weekend song, which was a massive hit on TikTok. The speech bubbles, it feeling very young and vibrant. Some people kind of saying, "Oh, this is like a Disney Channel show." I'm like, she's like a teenager. This is like she's younger than Peter Parker in Spider-Man. That's what she'd be like. So I'm actually looking forward to having something again fresh, different. I don't want all the Marvel series and movies feeling the same. I want her to feel like she's a teenager, and because you're only going to get this for a few years before she's grown up. But I'm really looking forward to seeing this one, and also June the 8th. I mean, we kind of had an inkling because according to some road closures that we knew that the premiere was going to take place at the El Capitan Theatre. I think it was on the 6th of June. So we knew it was going to be pretty close to that. But we were like, well, they're going to hold it till July because of Obi-Wan. No, doesn't look like it. We're going to be getting Obi-Wan Kenobi and Miss Marvel at the same time, right through from June the 8th onwards for at least, I think, about 3-4 weeks. We're going to be getting 2 big episodes. We're finally at that point. Disney's got enough to give us 2 episodes a week of 2 different shows, which is like, everyone's like, they're not going to do it. They've never done it. It's like, yeah, they've never had it because they've never done enough content. We might actually get to a point where they've got enough stuff to do this with.
Yeah, they had to stretch out the content because otherwise you'd get it all in May and then you'd be done by July or whatever. Yeah, a couple of thoughts on that. Like, I remember we talked about Doogie Kamealoha and getting on that show for ending each episode on like an Instagram or TikTok kind of thing. And it's like, this is a different approach to it. This is very much ingrained into the character. It makes sense. Whereas Kamealoha, it felt like an artificial attempt to connect with younger audiences. No, this is how Kamala is in the comics. She would 100% have an Instagram account where she just gushes about how great Captain Marvel is, or her latest fan fiction with the Avengers, because that's who she is. So yeah, it makes sense with her, and the styling of it, the comic bubbles, they make sense. And the one other thing I wanted to note was I was a bit worried about the character because she is a very bubbly, energetic, enthusiastic character, which you would have gotten from the game as well. You know, she's
Yeah,
very excited to be at the Avengers Day thing at the beginning of the
yeah,
game and then to join them later. And I was really worried that they would not be able to get an actress who could do that. She is young, and
yeah,
getting talented young actors is very difficult. But from the taste in the trailer, I think this actress, whose name is escaping me at the moment,
yeah.
did a really good job with it. So my biggest concern was that, and that concern has kind of gone down quite a bit after having seen the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking forward to again. It's just like cool. This is something fresh, something different. Fine. I'm all in. You know, it's that kind of thing of like Marvel have given me enough. You know, with everything we've seen from them in the past, of like, well, they're going to deliver something. I'm going to enjoy it, and if I don't like it, I don't like it. But I want to give it a go. I'm going in completely open, no kind of preconceived ideas to it. It might skew younger, but that's not a bad thing, you know. Not everything within Marvel has to fit within the exact same. You know, we're at that point now where we've got different superheroes are going to appeal to different people. You know, ultimately, there's always a good way as well of getting younger kids involved into these characters and kind of get them going. You know, I would, you know, we already know with some characters, you know, things like Moon Knight and Daredevil are much less well known than Spider-Man, you know, or Iron Man. But at one point, Iron Man wasn't really that well known. You know, I think a lot of people now don't even like remember when Iron Man first came out. Everyone thought it was going to be a flop because no one knew who Iron Man was.
I remember that distinctly. It's like, why are you starting with Iron Man? No one cares about Iron Man. And then of course the controversy is like, why would you get Robert Downey Jr. to play Iron Man? That's like, he's
Yeah,
not a name actor. No one knows who he is. He hasn't been relevant for years at that point. And it worked out obviously really well because now we're here
yeah.
20 years later still talking about it. And
It's
yeah, it you do say it skews younger. I get that impression too, but we don't want to be clear. We're
no.
talking like teenagers here. This isn't like Spider-Man and his like cartoon friends or the
No,
Marvel
no,
superhero
no.
world.
Remember, it's Spidey and his amazing friends.
Oh,
Not
right.
to
Sorry,
confuse
sorry.
it with Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
I legitimately couldn't remember what it was actually called. But yeah, we're not talking about like for 6-year-olds. This is
No,
for teenagers, and I'm sure it will skew a little bit older too in terms of some of the jokes and references. The question remains, of course, will we get any major cameos from it? Because if you were going to do major cameos, this is actually the one to do it in, because she would just completely fangirl out.
and it's also quite interesting because I feel like with Miss Marvel, it's because I'm gonna say it to my brother of like because my nephews are really into superheroes now, and they're watching generally the cartoons and stuff. And I'm like, and they're like, well, we've not really, they've been watching the movies, but they've not been doing the series and stuff. And it's like, you know, yeah, this one might be a good one to kind of see how they you know, good sort of intro into the series because I think something like Loki or something like that is just and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You know, little ones aren't going to be interested in it. You know, there's too much talking in it. But you know, this one might connect because they're a bit older. But nevertheless, I'm looking forward to it. I thought the trailer looked great. It sold me on the idea of this being again something different, and that's what I want. You know, I want this to be part of the process of it. I want Miss Marvel to feel different than the other shows. You don't want them all to be exactly. Yeah, it might be great that you really like a series and you want them all to be like it, but in reality, Marvel's so big now, they need this. Otherwise, we're all going to get bored if everything's very similar.
That's what they realized back with, I want to say, Captain America and the Winter Soldier back in the day. Before that, there was very much a formula to the stories, and people were not happy with Iron Man 3 and Thor Dark World, which pretty much just stuck to the formula, didn't do anything new. And they're generally considered like the low point of that era of the MCU. And then Captain America Winter Soldier came along. It's like, no, you can do a political thriller with this. And then Ant-Man came along and no, you can do a heist movie and Guardians of the Galaxy. You can just do Star Wars. And that was what made Marvel kind of survive the post-Avengers era, was that recognition. We can do whatever we want. The superhero genre is established. Now we can do the superhero plus genre.
I think that's been. I mean, that's been coming up a little bit. I think with some of the old school directors that don't like anything Marvel because it's still got a very like 1980s, 1990s view of what a superhero movie is. And it's like, well, guys, it's really kind of broadened out a lot since that. They're all very different. That just because they're a superhero doesn't mean that they are identical. And I think, we've all moved, and I think that's us as viewers. We've got used to this. We're getting used to different flavors. It's like everything. We want different things. And Miss Marvel to me just looks great. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun, and I think even DC starting to get in on the action of realizing, no, we can do superhero movies that aren't just superhero movies. So, which tells me that the genre really is just expanding past what people expected it to be.
Well, I think as well as like the comic books have done it for a long time, but I think it's mainstream audiences starting to wake up to the fact that not everything has to be Batman losing his parents, Superman escaping Krypton, and Spider-Man getting bit by a spider. There is more to that than them. Right, let's now talk about what's coming up on Disney Plus in April. Now, I'm going to go through the US list first, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the highlights coming to the UK. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the US release schedule, which you'll understand why in a minute. So on April the 1st, you're going to be getting a brand new Disney Plus original movie, Better Nate Than Ever. A really great musical, full review coming up. I think it's this week. This is really good. This is a really good musical one. Then we're also getting Herbie Fully Loaded. So that one's leaving HBO. Then we're getting new episodes of Moon Knight every week. So that's the main highlight. Plus, there's a few more episodes of the Proud Family, Loud and Proud. I think there's about 3 more episodes to come right through April. On Friday, the April the 8th, we're getting Chasing Mavericks along with 4 ESPN documentaries. Now, it's important to note, the actual 4 ESPN documentaries weren't in the original lineup. They got added the following day onto the list, which is something I'm going to put a pin in for later. Then on April the 13th, we're getting Scrap Tales. We're getting all 6 of these brand new shorts featuring Scrap from Ice Age. So I'm looking forward to that one. On April the 20th, that's just Proud Family Moon Knight. And then on April the 22nd, we're getting it's Earth Day. So there's quite a lot of stuff dropping this day. So we're getting Polar Bear, which is a brand new Disney nature movie. Then Bear Witness, which is a behind-the-scenes making of documentary of that film, which they've been doing for the last one. So I was expecting that one. We're getting Explorer, the Last Taipu. I'm not quite sure if that's how you pronounce it. This one's all about following the climber Alex from Free Solo as he climbs up a massive, great big 1,000-foot sheer cliff in the Amazon jungle. So I'm looking for, and Explorer is going to become, they're revitalizing this brand for Disney Plus. So that's looking pretty interesting. I'm liking the look at that one. We're also getting the biggest little farm, The Return. So that's a follow-up to the National Geographic documentary. So that's going to be a little 30-minute special. And there's also going to be a series coming, I think, later this year. A brand new series was also announced this week, coming on April the 27th, which is Sketchbook, which is a documentary series where they take a look at the life and work of 6 artists, and they show us how to draw characters like Maribel from Encanto. You've also got some other ones in there. Looks a little bit interesting. I always like doing the art stuff when I go to the theme parks. I always sit down there and do it. So I'm quite happy. I saw that one. Yeah, that looks like a nice little filler thing, and it that makes so much sense. Why they're doing that one.
I think it will depend a little bit on how advanced or how beginner friendly they're going to go with it. I know when you go to the parks, they make it super beginner friendly. I mean, the last time I saw one of those was when like Hercules was about to come into the park. So that was a long time ago. Yeah. But they sat down and like, this is how you do his face. And they really broke it down so that an absolute beginner can do it.
I think they took away the one in Hollywood Studios. Because last time we did it, last time we were in a park, we were at Hong Kong Disneyland just before all the lockdowns and stuff. So we did it at there. And we've always liked it. My wife loves doing it. And it's just something now that we would look to do. We did it. I think we did it on the cruise as well, because it's just fun. We're awful at it, but you're just having a bit of fun with it, and it's a nice little gimmick to do. But that was the US list, so that is it at the minute. That is it. That is. There's no library content other than a few, like 2 movies and some ESPN documentaries. There's no new stuff from the Disney Channel, no new stuff from National Geographic. Now, there was a lot of feedback to this when this news went out, and a lot of people really kind of going, "There's nothing coming to Disney Plus. What's going on? Why is there nothing coming in?" And I'm like, I get what this list is the worst they've ever sent out in terms of content. Yeah, there's great originals in there, but that's all there was. There's no library content, and it's a bit like, well, actually, if you look at it, the last 3 months that they've been sending out these, because they usually do it around the 15th of every month, they send out the list, and so obviously we update it and we tell you guys everything that's coming. But they've been getting smaller and smaller every month this year. This is the 4th one in a row now where we've gone, wow, that list's not very big. There's not a lot on it. There's not coming. And they keep adding to it. And they keep adding to it. And then they do some surprise drops. They then announce more stuff. They keep filling it out. And I'm going to be honest, I'm at a point now where I feel like they're shifting gears in terms of their marketing campaign and how they're handling this list. They're not treating it the same way they did like last year or the year before. It feels a little bit like this, just because that's how they've been doing it for like 2 years. They've decided they're obviously shifting it up, mixing things around. There might be some other issues going on, but going off of what I've seen now over the last 4 months, this initial announcement mid-month of what's coming next month is changing. It's no longer the way it used to be, and I think we need to maybe look at it and go, right, they are announcing stuff, because I mean, I didn't even do a video yesterday because it's like, no, because there's too much. There's this, by the time this video goes out, it's going to be out of date. There's two, and literally, yeah, blow me, the next following morning, 4 new titles have been added to the list, and it was like, it didn't even last 24 hours before it'd been updated. And it's like, we haven't had an announcement of what they're doing with this general entertainment releases yet. Maybe they're holding off to do that announcement at a later date, see how Daredevil and stuff went down. But this US list, it's like, it just feels like they're just changing strategy of how they're letting people know. Because some streamers don't let you know everything until sometimes a day or two before the month's ready. Maybe there's some stuff going on backstage of what they're doing. But it feels to me like the strategy of how they are announcing this stuff is shifting rather than how it's always been. And you know, they are free to change how they do their strategy for release schedules. Just because this is how they've been doing it doesn't mean that they're going to be doing this for the rest of existence. It just feels to me like something's going on, because we're in the 4th month of this now, and every month we've said this is the worst list ever, and then we've had West Side Story, Daredevil, we've had Modern Family, The Wonder Years, we've had Free Guy. All this stuff was never included in the pre-announcements. It's like, well, nearly every one of their big titles is being held back for a later announcement.
I think they've noticed that, with the exception of series. So you want to build up hype for Moon Knight, you want to build up hype for Miss Marvel, but when you're going to release either a movie or maybe not one of the super hype titles, you need to get the information as close to the release as possible, so that people are like, oh, I saw an ad for Free Guy on Disney Plus, and they pop over and it's there, rather than, oh no, it's coming a month and a half from now, at which point they will have forgotten about it.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a shift, and especially like you say, something that's coming out, say like now for end of March. Well, we might have been talking about this back in the middle of February, and like you say, it's a long time away, and people have forgotten. It just feels like things have changed. The way they've been doing it is changing. Now, I'm not keen on this new system. I was quite happy with the way it was, but I can't help but feel like there's more to it than what we're looking at, and this is just a shift in how they're announcing stuff. Now, we did have the UK list released just after it, which is standardized, and we got a lot of stuff. But even there, we've been getting, sometimes some things get held back and then get announced, and that's quite common. But yeah, the US list is very strange, and I'll straight up like, yeah, that. And the trouble is, it was gaining a lot of attention from people kind of going, "Is that it? Why am I paying my subscription? There's nothing on here." And I'm like, I agree with you guys. I completely think that this list does not look very good, and there should be more on here. And I do think they should be releasing a lot more stuff. But until they sort out this general entertainment stuff, I feel like in some ways, they've got to work out what they're doing with this and tell everyone, because there's only so many more. I mean, I know a lot of people like, well, the library stuff and what they're doing. It's like, yeah, they're doing. There's got to be something. I can't believe that they've just like turned the taps off completely and go, no, yeah, in April you just get in this, because it's like, no way. There's going to be a lot more to come.
There will be announcements, and we'll see stuff coming out. But like, case in point, we talked about it last month during the list, and I completely forgot that Cheaper by the Dozen was coming out this week. Like, because there was no recent announcement about it. There was nothing saying, "Oh yes, we've got Cheaper by the Dozen coming, and it's coming on March 16th or 18th, whatever date it came out," because it was on the list back in February. We talked about it at that time, and then I just like,
Yeah.
this. And at first, I was even like, "Oh, they put the Steve Martin one back out." No, this is the new one. Like,
Well, I mean, they literally only held the premiere on Wednesday.
yeah, so
they kept everything really much to. I mean, the review embargo was like Thursday afternoon. It was like pretty close to it, so there wasn't really a chance. And I think the trailers and stuff, Disney had obviously decided that they knew that that movie was not gonna pull people in. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but yeah, like you say, I do agree with you that like that it's just so long for the mid-month. While we all like to know and we like to have all these schedules, the vast majority of people don't. You know, the vast majority of people aren't doing it, and we're kind of in the minority of going through these lists. But like other streaming services sometimes don't announce theirs till literally like a day or two before the beginning of the month. Whereas I think in some ways, yeah, it is messy, and I completely understand this whole thing of the schedules it's just like, especially compared to the UK list, which dropped at the same time. I mean, I am not kidding. I mean, I'm updating the articles and stuff all the time on these. So the US one dropped, and I've literally got to put 3 things on this list that I didn't know about this morning. The UK one dropped in, and it took me 4 hours to do the article. It was just like and that's the thing of like that is a real just like for my like when you get to the end of the UK one, and my fingers are hurting because
now. To be fair, though, of course, if you integrated the Hulu list into the Disney Plus list, it would be a lot longer as well. But yeah, since we are talking specifically Disney Plus, regardless of sub branding, it's like Moon Knight, documentary, Moon Knight, and versus Walking Dead and
well, I mean, literally, there's some days on the UK list which, in all honesty, we're getting more in one day than like the US list is for the whole month. I mean, you're talking like 7 or 8 movies, 4 or 5 series dropping a day. Just a few highlights. I might as well bring them up now. So obviously we're getting all the same stuff pretty much as the US is getting in terms of originals. We're also getting loads of new Disney Channel and National Geographic stuff. Some big ones, including NCIS. We're getting all 18 seasons, plus the first new episodes from season 19 are going to be starting to drop weekly. We're going to be getting Bob's Burgers weekly, The Great North, Our Kind of People, The Resident, season 5. There'll be new episodes dropping. I know my mum's really excited about NCIS. Getting movies like A Monster's Call, I, Robot, Speed, and also a load of the Planet of the Apes movies. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 of them coming in. Also, like and I think this is a really good thing of like about half a dozen baby TV shows. Real like the exact opposite end, and I was just like, trying to get in on all of that kind of like young content because we're getting like Ghost Force and Tots and Spidey and His Amazing Friends. Also getting some international originals like the Arrogant Angels, Anti-Disturbos is coming in. Another big series dropping right from in April around the world on Disney Plus is the new Kardashian series, which gets I'm not the hate that series gets. I want to watch it just because I want to find out what everyone's so upset about. Because I think I've only ever watched a little bit of it. Wow, people really hate this. It must be good.
And granted, I've never seen one of their shows, but I guarantee you it's one of those things where the internet makes it sound like it is the most hated thing alive, but it's going to get crazy ratings when it actually drops.
Well, this is one that I think me and my wife, because we're currently addicted to Married at First Sight Australia. So this is going to be like one, I think on a Thursday, it will just be me and my wife. This will be like, yeah, okay, darling, we have to watch the Kardashians. I have to. So, yeah.
You will talk about that. I will be skipping the Kardashians, but it is definitely a very echo chamber view to think that nobody is going to be watching this.
This is a huge series.
Very popular. Yeah.
So I'm all up for it. I'm for a little bit of reality TV. Again, it's a bit of a palate cleanser. Like to mix it up a little bit.
Let's see if you say that after.
I'll be like, oh my god, it's great! I want to watch all the previous 20 seasons. There's some other stuff coming, like Captive Audience. It's a new documentary series that's also going to be on Hulu. Yeah, I'm just trying to see whichever ones. There's a few, like I said, there's quite a few European and international ones. Like they're really starting to rev up putting these on there, which I actually was thinking the other day of. It makes a lot of sense from the point of view of like they're not necessarily need to promote them, but if you're Googling and it brings up, or you're traveling or you speak, it's like why not just make them all available? You don't have to put them on the homepage if they're buried deep within it. Because I find that with movies, you'll find them like say like Speed is already available in one country. Of course, you click on it on Google and then it goes it's not available in your region. It's like, well, at some point, hopefully everything will be. So it will just make life a lot easier. Just trying to think here what other ones we got, like The Passage, which that was a really good series. I remember watching that on FX. Yeah, and I'm just trying to think. We've got This Is Us. We've got new episodes of that dropping right through, and just there is just a flood of National Geographic in like 20th. It's just filling it out, and I think this is again that difference of some of these movies and shows are already available in other countries as the contracts are starting to line up. But again, it was just like kind of like, wow, you guys. And then of course you're looking at the US list and going, come on, make your announcement regarding this general entertainment stuff. Get some stuff flowing. I know they wanted to get the Daredevil launch this week done. They had to get this parental controls in, and they're going to have to see how the feedback is and slowly catch a monkey kind of thing. But it's like, okay, well, you keep talking about it. You've now enabled the parental controls. We're going to need that kind of follow-up. And now when we're going to get that announcement, I don't know. Hopefully it's pretty soon. But yeah, so it's a very weird one, really, what's coming up in April at the moment.
Yeah, that is a really impressive list, actually, for the UK, especially with the National Geographic stuff. There's a lot of series. I mean, it's mostly back catalog or the most recent season of long-running stuff, but still, it's content, and it's a lot of it, and there's a lot of things on that list. I'm like, you know what, this would be a fun kind of like chill on Sunday afternoon after all your housework is done or whatever, and just throw this on and watch it, or even put it on while you're doing your housework so you've got the background noise.
It's kind of been funny because I know there's been obviously a lot of people talking about like March was like, oh, there's no big series on Disney Plus, but like, I mean, we've had a lot of movies dropping this month. I mean, especially here internationally, because we've got like Nightmare Alley dropped this week, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. We've also got Death on the Nile coming up at the end of the month, and we've had Fresh has dropped. We've also had West Side Story, Turning Red, Cheaper by the Dozen. It's like, well, actually, internationally, you're probably looking at about 7 or 8 big like movies, which like can't dispute that that's actually not a bad lineup.
I mean, Turning Red has been a talking point for a lot of people the last couple of weeks. It and Encanto, which obviously came out before March, have just been these buzz movies that people keep mentioning and have really been driving conversation. So it's just one movie in March, but it really has been generating a lot of
it's kind of funny with this sort of thing because a lot of people have been like saying about the fact, well, they should have put it it was good, it should have gone out in cinemas, and they would have made some money with it, but on Disney Plus they don't make any money, and it isn't really pulled anybody in. And I'm like, I mean, if like the engagement in these characters, when it hits Disney Plus for everybody, it just you see it explode. I mean, I've seen it. Turning Red definitely had a little bit of an interesting reaction, especially in our Facebook group and on social media. It's got a lot of discussion about things, what's inappropriate, what isn't appropriate, what age groups to watch it. Sitting down and having discussions about like periods and stuff with kids. It's just been raging on all week because more and more people are watching it and people hearing about it and wanting to watch it, and and it's a different kind of engagement from the adults that we saw with Encanto, because Encanto we didn't really have that, but ultimately again it's just shown like there's a lot of interest in this. There's a lot of interest in these characters, a lot of people loving it. It's good. I mean, I was in the Disney store. I wanted to get this new. They got a jumbo pop of the panda, but it's not out yet. I keep looking on Amazon. I was in the Disney store, and they had this big plush It's like it's too big for the unit. It was just going to be squashed in. It was like I was like, oh, I picked it up and was like, it's going to get squashed in the box because it's like, yeah, we'd have had a big turning red thing. So I'm waiting to get the pop, but yeah.
Well, one, I'm glad that they're putting merchandise out because it has been a Disney thing for the last several years to kind of wait to see if the movie is successful before really going in on the merchandise, which is actually, frankly, kind of annoying. But also point to, people are saying is this bringing in new people? And you got to remember, the bringing in new people isn't always the point. Sometimes the point is giving stuff to the people who are already subscribed so they stay subscribed.
Yeah.
Especially in the American market where we don't have Star integrated into it. You need this constant flow so that the churn rate, which is people subscribing and unsubscribing, doesn't go up. So yeah, this movie probably is not going to get people to directly subscribe. Some will, but not like huge numbers, not like say Moon Knight perhaps will. But it gives content for people who are already subscribed and things for them to go, oh, no, my subscription is worth holding on to for another month and so on.
Yeah, I think because this is a real big difference of, I know this from like the international, and especially like here in the UK, of people saying about like unsubscribing and stuff. And it's like I just look here now. So say like this is literally like 1 week in April. So we're getting like, I think we're looking here. We're getting something brand new on the 18th. So we're getting like the Superstar Series 1 and the Queen family. And up recently, we've been getting The Walking Dead. So I've been watching that every Monday. And then on Wednesday, you're getting like Moon Knight, Proud Family. Plus, then you're getting I was looking here. We're getting NCIS, Resident, Our Kind of People, The Great North, Bob's Burgers, and Family Guy. Those are just new episodes. And then we're getting on the following day, then you're getting the Kardashians and This Is Us, and then you're getting some original movies on the Friday. We're getting to the point where we're getting like 3 to 4 drops a week. And it's like, well, hold on, we're getting 10 new episodes of different series a week. That really does change that perspective of, oh, is there anything on Disney Plus? Well, out of those 10 series, there's going to be something that you should like. In a very, very, I mean, they still got a lot more to go in terms of variety. I think more from the drama side, from like ABC and FX and stuff. But something there, someone's gonna like, and you're not, and also you get to the point of like, I don't know, you're not watching all of them because there's too many shows dropping.
No, and there's a very different way of interacting with the app depending on where you're at. I normally only turn on Disney Plus on Wednesday and Friday at this point. I'm checking for the new releases. I mean, I already know what they are because I am doing this, but are there new releases on Wednesday? I'll check those out. Are there new releases on Friday? I'll check those out. But otherwise, the rest of the week, unless I'm engrossed in the middle of a back catalog run of a title that I wanted to check out, I'm not loading up Disney Plus. And Hulu is normally kind of the same at the moment. Because I'm only going for the original content. I'm not going for the next day television series, which is obviously a very different experience. But I'm only checking them like once or twice a week at this point. But if we had them both merged and getting that amount of content, I would definitely be on these more often.
Maybe I mean, it's like for me, it's like the multiple movies and stuff this week that I've watched, but also I'm in the middle of a How I Met Your Mother binge watch at the minute. I've played for about 4 seasons. It's something you put on in the background while you're working, and it's just easy go. And I've been finding that a lot. And this is why those sitcoms are just constantly just rotating through, because they're easy to, you don't have to be watching them. But yeah, just a real big difference in terms of what's coming. Like I said, that US list of what's coming, 100% sure there'll be more to it. There'll be some more big announcement stuff. I think the original side is probably it. But we didn't know, like with Daredevil, when they put out the release, none of those were included, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were included when that was originally revealed back in February of what was going to be coming. West Side Story wasn't on. There's a lot of things that they've released this month that weren't on that original list.
Yeah, and you can also expect that this will happen more often because a lot of those long-term contracts that were signed with HBO or Warner and Netflix back in the day, a lot of those are reaching their endpoint. More will be reaching it in 2023 and 2024, but that kind of thing will be more frequent, and we can probably expect they won't make the announcement until the contract is actually up.
Yeah,
as kind of like a professional courtesy kind of deal. So as those contracts expire, you can expect snap announcements of, it's leaving Netflix. Okay, it'll be on Disney Plus in a
Yeah, I mean,
couple
I don't
days.
think there's not much left now on Netflix. It's more HBO
No,
seems to be the main issue. But obviously, this past week, the parental controls got updated in the US, bringing it in line with what we've got here in the UK for the past year. Generally, so far, the feedback on I've seen on social media and in our Facebook group, very positive. I mean, I think a few people make the odd little question about how it works and stuff because they've maybe not quite grasped how the system works, because you're always going to have that. And it's like simple things like the main account holder changes theirs, but then doesn't go into their partners and change their partners to be 18 plus. Like the the girlfriend or something goes and goes, why have I not got Daredevil? Oh, you've got to change the settings, and things like that, because they maybe just assumed that Disney Plus knew you were an adult, and it's like, no, it only did it on the primary account. I've barely seen any negativity. The odd comment here and there, and anytime there is one, there's usually about 25 people underneath, kind of pretty much jumping in, going parental controls, because I think there's that kind of feeling of like, well, everybody else is doing this, so why are you making such a big deal? And I 100% think Disney knew what they were doing with this Marvel announcement. It did exactly what it slid in, and they've done it with enough stuff that it didn't catch anybody's. The Marvel excitement overrides everything that's going on. You're obviously going to get some feedback in, some mums groups and stuff, but most of the stuff I've been seeing, people have been generally quite excited about it.
Yeah, it would have been a much different reaction if they dropped in like The Walking Dead or American Horror Story, something like that, because it'd be like, why is this on Disney Plus and it's mature rated? But no, this is Daredevil. He appeared in Spider-Man. This is Wilson Fisk. He appeared in Hawkeye. It makes sense. They're able to get it in, and like you said, the positive of getting these Marvel shows on there outweighed the people worrying about mature content. Also, I do appreciate that the default setting for the other family members is TV 14 or whatever. Show no mature content. So there was never a situation of forgetting, little Timmy's account for the 8-year-old. Why is Daredevil on that? No, it's the other way around. Why is my teenager not able to see Daredevil?
It was quite funny though, because there was a thing of quite a few Americans were really kind of finding it quite humorous seeing the Punisher next to Mickey Mouse and Clubhouse on the homepage. That was really getting really good. I mean, obviously by now, we're used to it, seeing it here, what it looks like on here in the UK. But yeah, I think that was the shock value of like, this looks weird. I remember saying this last year when it was like, but yeah, you kind of it catches your eye a little bit that it's not quite right.
It's definitely an interesting experience looking at that list, and you've got Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, Proud Family. You're like, wait, what? But yeah, looking forward to when Hulu merges into, and now you've got Aliens next to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or something like that. There is definitely a bit of a disconnect in your brain.
It definitely has that kind of thing, like you say, of internationally now. Of course, we're just used to, we got American Horror Story above Luca, and it's just normal. Because obviously I'm on an 18 plus account, so there's no reason not to. But yeah, so there we go. Let's jump now, shift gears into some reviews. So we've had a few things out this week. Let's first off talk about Cheaper by the Dozen. This was a new movie that I went in with extremely low expectations. Wasn't expecting a lot. The trailer didn't really sell it to me. And I watched it and I kind of went, I laughed at a few bits and pieces. And I kind of got to the end of it and I'm like, this is fine. This is perfect. I don't ever need to watch this ever again. It's fine for what it was. And I couldn't help but feel like this movie would be so much better if they only had 3 kids, where they could have actually spent some time on some of these problems a little bit more. Because it's almost like with 12 kids, they were like rushing through to give every kid a little problem that would get solved within it. it was a bit like a TV series where it was like, right, that problem's over, moving on. And like there wasn't really a lot of like connecting up the dots other than maybe like oh, so the kids stole some stuff and then the kid's getting bullied, and well, we know where that's it was a very predictable in how it worked. So it's like it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, but it wasn't great. But and I could definitely tell, like having watched Blackish, which one of the writers worked on Cheaper by the Dozen, there was a lot of elements of that series that I like saw in this one here. For example, like talking about like the kids not playing with guns outside the house was an episode. I remember that being something that was mentioned in Blackish, and just that whole issue of like, they didn't shy away from this kind of thing. But again, it's like, why did you do it for the Cheaper by the Dozen? You could have like rebranded this, trimmed it down a little bit. 12. All these kids. That was my one thing. Like, this would have been so much better if we just had like the older kid, the nephew, and maybe just had 3 or 4 kids and had the stories instead of just 12 of them just running around, all just getting next to nothing in terms of screen time.
Yeah, but it's one of the conundrums, of course. It is Cheaper by the Dozen. That is the source material. Yeah. And if it's not a dozen kids, if you have 3 kids, then the main premise is gone. But I also get what you're saying. None of the kids, except for maybe like the basketball player, had any particular narrative arc. The cousin who came because his mom was in rehab, he had an arc. But yeah, like the girl in the wheelchair, she had basically nothing. She appeared every once in a while, and that was it.
I did like having the fact that she's obviously, she's in a wheelchair. They've got a ramp. They talked about like, moving in and getting a lift, and it was just a part of the family without making any reference to the fact of how she got it, what it was wrong, and it was just normalized. And I really thought that was great. Don't turn it into a story. She is just it's just part of life. Like, if it, then, and I like that aspect of not making it into a big thing. They did seem to do the opposite thing with the godson that they were like, why do we need the story telling us why that's like, yeah, because you've squeezed something in here that you I don't know. It was a little bit like, did we need it? Did we not? It was very tricky. I don't know. And again, this is why I keep saying that, like, it would have been so much interesting had they just had like 3 kids and they had all had bit more time to do the story. You could have maybe done the bullying storyline, the nephew storyline, and the basketball storyline, and maybe just the other kids just didn't need to be there.
Or we can go in the other direction. Rather than making it a movie, it would have worked as like a 12 episode TV series. Each kid gets like 1 episode that's primarily focused on them, and the other kids have like their B plot going on. That would have been fine, because this does feel like a bit rushed. Like they want to get to each issue, but without really going into it. However, you did mention like the normalizing thing, and it wasn't just that character. I did actually appreciate that the majority of the things in this movie were pretty normalized. There were conflicts, but nothing like super dramatic. No major, like, if only you would talk to each other, you could just fix this kind of sitcom thing. Even the biggest conflict, which is, of course, him going off and doing the franchise thing and his wife being left to deal with the dozen by herself and getting frazzled by it. When he gets home, they actually just talk about it. And then and he actually listens to her too. He's like, oh, I am dropping the ball, and this is our project together, and it's really, I really need you in on this. And like, oh, they're actually treating it like adults. Cool.
It's again, see, this is probably the thing I probably had the hardest thing to react to was the fact of them running this breakfast restaurant and all the kids working and stuff and going, right, so we ran a family business for 20 years doing basically bacon and eggs and sausages and stuff. We didn't have time for any of the stuff that they were doing, and there was only like 4 of us. And it's like, it's like, I think that was where I was like, I'm checking. This is too far to go on. They can't do that if they got a business like this. All the rest, that's where I draw that. I was like, okay, so now you've sold your sauce, and now you're buying like a £3 million house. Your kid reaches 60, so here's a brand new car, which always annoys me in TV series. Like, here's the brand new car that we got from Chevrolet.
I know. like,
but not just the banger that was in the gutter. We bought like your £300 banger just to wreck kind of thing. Like, no, here's the brand new car.
I know it's such a it's an annoying cliche, honestly.
It's just a bit like it's like, and they're like, in this massive house, and I'm just like, really, it's like it was so much more relatable when they were all in just a normal size house. There was a lot of stuff in this, like, what you're doing you're rushing through the stories to get there. It's like, like you say, it would have been better as a series. It might have played out a bit more. It was like, we just didn't need this stuff. The source would have been enough. We didn't need the franchise. In some ways, that was, I don't know.
But that was also kind of the point, right? Was him recognizing, no, the sauce is enough. I don't need to do this franchise, and I don't need to play by corporate's rules. I want to keep doing this my way and the way that my wife is doing it. That was kind of the point. But I also agree they spent way too long on it, and the Barbie characters, the way they were.
Well, they're like, I think they were like Sweet Valley High. I think that was the last time I saw them in. It's like a TV series from when I was a kid or something. Yeah,
but it was clear, like, the writer wanted to make certain points, and he had to get the story to those points so he could make them, especially in regards to like the different experience between the white kids growing up and the black kids growing up, and how they reviewed in this gated like community and how differently they were treated. And I was a little surprised they went in. I was like, wasn't expecting racial undertone. Well, overtones actually.
But that makes so much more sense.
It did.
It was that kind of thing of like that. Those storylines were like, that's a real problem for that family. That will be a problem that they're going to have to come over, and talking about, like the issues between the mums and stuff. I thought that was good. And that made sense with the storyline of where they were going. It was just some of the other stuff was it just didn't seem necessary.
Oh, no, 100%. And then also, having the kids' parents from the previous marriage for both sides of the family, and in particular the father from the wife's side of the family, and him coming in and explaining to the main character, no, you cannot provide the proper support for them because you have no idea what they've been through or what they will go through, and I can. And again, it was an emotional conversation, but it was an adult conversation. There was none of this like over the top, like yelling at each other, missing the point. No, he's like, you know what, you're right. I don't know what they're going to go through, and we want you part of their life, but don't take the kids with you. You don't have to do a full custody, pull them away from this. We can work with this together. So, like, I agree with you. It's not a particularly great movie. It's not going to stick with you. You're not going to sit down and be like, "Oh, we should watch that again," or make it a family tradition. But I did actually like the movie quite a bit because it was very low stakes, and very kind of zen-ish, just a slice of life, no big problems. And while that's not really going to put too many, tickets in theaters, this didn't go to theaters, but in that situation, it would not have done great at the box office. But I like what they did with it.
Yeah, I like I said, I would totally say to everyone, watch it. I enjoyed it. I had some problems with it.
Yes,
but it was the best of the 3 movies that I've watched this week. So that was a thing.
The dance off went on way too long.
That's my biggest. Well, that was one of the funny things. So we also had some other movies this week, so we'll talk about them. So definitely watch Cheaper by Dozen. We also had on Hulu in the United States and on Amazon everywhere else. And yesterday they released 20th Century Studios released Deep Water with Ben Affleck, a erotic thriller where this girl kind of. Did you watch it? Or because I did tell you not to.
You did. I will spoil this for you guys. He literally sent me a message like, "Do not watch this. This is awful." So of course I watched like the first 15 minutes. I'm like, is this really? And it's like, this is bad. This is so really bad.
Basically, Ben Affleck's wife keeps going off and having affairs, but kind of rubs his nose in it and like parades them around the house, and he just sort of sits there and watches it. And for the first hour, nothing happens, nothing at all. It's just like watching paint dry. And then, spoiler, he starts killing them off, and then he gets arrested and all the rest of it. And it was just like, okay, the last 15-20 minutes, all right. But it's like, like this, I think this guy had done like Fatal Attraction, a load of stuff in the 80s. Like, this would have worked in the 80s. Nowadays, this is just, it was bland. It was so bland and dull. Of like, see why it got sold off. It's just like, I mean, it's been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. Yeah, oh God, it was just awful. Just, I literally couldn't wait for it to be over.
And to be clear, it's not, the premise of the movie that her blatantly cheating in front of him and him being okay with it, in fact, being like attracted to it, isn't the problem. The problem is neither of these characters are likable at all, completely, which can work. You can do a movie with unlikable characters, but no, it just did not click.
No, and that was the thing as well. You kind of, because this is Ben acting it now. He just stood there. It was just really, and I mean, yeah, it just, I don't know. It just wasn't, just didn't really, just, it was just, yeah, it was just rubbish.
From the bit I saw, it felt like he thought this was like a sequel to Gone Baby Gone, which is the same with him.
But he was really good in that.
No, that's my point. That's my point. That character worked for him because you're supposed to realize that character isn't really connected to reality. He's vacant because he doesn't really feel things.
Yeah.
But this character feels things, and that vacant stare doesn't work.
No, it was just really awful. So I'm really glad that it got shifted over onto Amazon rather than as a Star, because it should have been a Star original. But I think it might have been a new Regency deal. How long? Because sometimes some of these movies are wrapped up in contracts from pre-pandemic, because they've taken that long to get out. Why they held on to this one, I don't know. But nevertheless, so that one's there. So don't watch that one. And then we also had More Than Robots, a documentary on robot teams at school, which just like.
Well,
is that what it was about?
I don't even
I
know.
this is a problem where it's kind of like Science Fair and in We Own the Room, where they were following these students in this like robot thing to do with building something with Star Wars. But once Mark Hamill came off the screen, he never appeared. They never referenced Star Wars for the next hour and a bit. I'm like, well, okay. It's to do with Star Wars. No, it's not. Nothing to do with Star. Where's all the Star Wars stuff? Gone.
There were occasional pictures like with BB-8 on some of like the merchandising, and that was about it.
Yeah, and I'm like, and then it was like, and then COVID hit, and everything got cancelled, and then they started making face masks. I'm like, what? Like, even this movie was like, is it red? Was it either? This either should have been scrap the project because you haven't got it, but trying to shift, or it was like, because we spent way too long on the like preparing side. Because I think had the competition gone on as normal, that probably would have been like a 5-10 minute segment rather than an hour.
Right, because it ended up focusing on a semifinal tournament, which was one of the last ones that was run, rather than the finals, which is probably what they wanted to. And you can tell that they felt like, oh, if we shift to COVID, we can tell this emotional story about them shifting gears and them making masks and face shields. And it's just like, no, this has nothing to do with robots or anything at all. And then, of course, the guy who runs it comes on and is like, this has always been about more than robots. I'm like, no, this has literally been about robots.
And it's that kind of, it's called More Than Robots because we've changed half. It's just, honestly, I just don't bother. I wouldn't bother.
No, and it does hurt me to say that because I was really interested in this. I know people who are involved in like local level versions. So this is top tier. These are the high level national teams. So I'm talking about like the small group at the local high school who are building with Legos rather than like actual machined parts and things like that. But they do really cool things, and they're really build engagement for kids who normally they're not the sports type, they're not the in crowd group, and it gives them a place to be themselves.
But it's very weird.
Never does that.
But it's
they're very weird.
It's very weird. Like looking at it from an international point of view, I'm just like, why are they getting like so like? Yeah, it was just like so obsessed with like winning and like trying to turn it into sports and competition, and it brings out the best. Like, no, it doesn't. It's like, what? Aren't you? Shouldn't be like concentrating on your exams or something a little bit more important than these? Like, I know they're building skills and it's important, and having an after school club is. It's like, yeah, but it's an after school club. Shouldn't that be like once a week, like for an hour? And it just seemed like they went so far. Like this was again, I don't know. Is there like scholarships on hand for like who wins this or something? Or
again, that's because this is the top tier competition. Anything where you're talking about like international competitions and things like that, it's going to be a very different view than the local level. Because what you're talking about, like the once a week or twice a week program, that's more what I was talking about too.
Yeah.
The kid will come to after school on Tuesday and Thursday. There'll be a mentor from like a local machine shop. They'll build their little Lego catapult or even like a little.
I remember getting like the Lego Technic. I remember my parents collecting for Christmas, and it was like a Lego set that had a controls kit, and you had to get the mechanic stuff, and it was like I loved it, but there was nothing at school. But obviously, this is a long time ago. I actually even went onto my local schools and my high school and stuff, and even my university to see if they were doing it in this country, because I was just like, this just seems like a little bit of it, but it's like again, it's just like American high school, college stuff of kind of going. This just feels a long way away from what I think most people are doing.
Right. And that's kind of the point though. You want to do documentaries about stuff that people don't know about. You want people to become aware of things like this. And it's not just America. They had like the Brazilian team, they had the Japanese team and things like that. But the focus really was the American team. But that was, I think, the real problem with it is you want people who don't know about these robot competitions or who maybe only know about like battle bots from back in the day.
That's what I wanted. I wanted some fights.
Right. That's what people associate with these robot competitions is like the two robots enter, one robot leaves kind of thing. Right. So the documentary should really be explaining what the actual competitions are and what the real local robot club kind of things do. And it doesn't do that at all. It presents as we give you a challenge, you build a big like Johnny 5 robot to meet the challenge. And now that's what you think these are. But honestly, more often than not, the accomplishment for most of the kids doing these clubs is simply getting the robot to move forward, turn 45 degrees and go forward again. And that's like the huge accomplishment that a lot of the kids have. So it's worlds of difference between.
Yeah, because I mean, I went onto like the first website just to read up on this after I watched it, because it was just like it wasn't really making a lot of sense, because it just seemed quite like I was like, what is this? Just does it was a bit of those kind of weird thing. Like, I don't know if it's just lost in translation across the pond, but it was very much like
no, it's
this again. The story lost. It's like it just was waffling in the middle of like, we've got to get to 90 minutes, and we're going to use all the B-roll footage that we might have used. It's like this either needed to be canned or restart when the next year's tournament started and delay it 2 years, because the kids are all probably finished uni by the time this worksheet's finished, because it's taking so long to get through.
I mean, they even talked about it at the end. A lot of the kids were like, I never got to go to the finals, and now I'm graduating, so I'm done. That was part of the thing. What's interesting to me, though, of course, is the foundation they followed is FIRST, of course, which is the big one, but I use that in quotes. It was founded by the guy who created the Segway, right? I think they mentioned that in the thing. And that, I think, actually makes it make more sense, because the guy who invented the Segway is really good at creating technology and building interest in technology. Because you remember when Segway was like being hyped up as like the greatest thing of all time, it will be. And then you actually get the Segway and it's like, yeah, it's cool technology, but you will not look cool on it. Right.
No.
There is virtually no way to look cool on a Segway. Sorry, all the mall cops who are watching this who are riding Segways, but that's his thing. He's very good at technology and he's very bad at making it cool. And you got that from this as well, where it's like, yeah, we're going to make it like American sports. There's going to be cheerleaders and mascots. And like, this is the cringiest thing you possibly could have done for the robots.
It's kind of funny because I was up because I was up obviously in London for the Moonlight premiere, and I was sat in this coffee shop in a window just looking out and doing some work and stuff while I was waiting for it to start. And just electric scooters, they like push along scooters, but electric versions, thousands of them. It's like that's what's taken on that's become the, because I know we're getting some issues now of like when they become legal and stuff, and there's a whole park full of them parked up. And it's like you say, like the Segway didn't take off, whereas people are jumping on these like boardable scooters, and the signs everywhere on the tube like you can't use them and stuff. But like you say, it's like a technology that's kind of blown up, and it just reminded me of like that, how different. But again, this whole robot first thing, I mean, it does a lot of PR spin, and they're like really pushing what this thing is, and I mean, even like I was just looking at the website there, it's going like, more than robots. Well, we're more than robotics, and it's like, it just feels like buzzwords of a charity. I don't know. It's just, and then just like watching it, going, really, this was just way pointless. It was just pointless because it didn't have, like you say, it didn't have an ending and it didn't have a middle. It was just a start. We had to start and then it stopped, and they're like, they just used way too much B-roll of just like, what, we don't care about spending too much time on these kids that there was no ending of. And I don't know. It's just a very disappointing documentary.
I'm sorry, the way you phrased that is the ending of the kids. They're just like, we're just going to cut them down when this is done. We couldn't kill the battle bots, so the kids are going to go out and do that.
Nothing happened. That was the problem. It just like,
COVID happened. And like,
COVID. Yeah, but it's like that's not enough of a like. Oh, then we all shifted over and started making robots to do deliveries.
It's like, yeah. I mean, I get it. There's like a historical artifact.
All about like walking alongside it with a remote control to get it to like, well, we're not touching it. It's nice and healthy. So like, just pick the bag up and take it to the woman's house. It'd be quicker.
There's that aspect to it as well. But I think what it boils down to is this documentary just never had a voice. It didn't know what it wanted to tell. Is it talking about the kids? Is it talking about the robots? Is it talking about COVID? Is it talking about the first foundation? And it touched on everything, but it never like focused in on anything. So by the end of it, you're just like, I watched an hour and a half of people talking about different things, and I learned almost nothing from it.
The fact I had to go onto the website afterwards to try and work out what was going on, because it's like, well, what is? It's like I said, the events just looked, like you said, cringy. And it was like that kind of thing, like, is it just me like looking at this like old man going, I don't know what that is? And it was just like, no. And then like the international side as well, I was just going, man, they've tried like look at like cheerleaders coming out for robot pick teams, and like, Battle of the Geeks and Nerds, and just like, what are they doing? I don't know. It just felt really weird.
But that's why I liked specifically the Japanese one towards the end, because rather than having like all the cheerleaders and we've got to work on our mascot, they had the benefactor, the person who funded their club, and they did a demonstration for him, and they did a demonstration for various people who'd helped parents and stuff like that. And that was really the extent of it. They didn't like go over the top with explosives. And even there, they're like, well, it's not working the way we want. But the parents, probably for the camera less than actuality, were very supportive and more like, well, you did a really good job. It didn't get to where you wanted to, but look at how much you did accomplish.
I think that was
a much better. That was a much better message.
It's also as well, I think, that difference of, like you say, trying to turn it into like, if we're going to turn this into like sports, and trying to bring all the sports aspect to it, and it's like, and it's like even like forcing the teams to team up together, and it was just, oh, well, this feels so like, why?
That's the thing, is the why. They never really explain the sport. They give you the basic premise. You need to shoot the balls through these hoops, and you need to balance on this wire, and then like, okay, well, this team scored 250 points. Like, did they? I don't know. How did
we didn't see it? We didn't even see it.
We didn't see it. Oh, and we're like, oh, this team would be the really good one to team up with. Like, why? What was special about them versus the other teams? What led your decision-making process? And it goes into none of that. Absolutely none of it.
Like I said, a very disappointing documentary. Just didn't really. It kind of was like the thing of like, the brief when they started, they couldn't finish, and they tried to find it in the editing suite, and that's what it feels like. And then we did some Zoom calls at the end just to kind of try and get a closure, and that's what it feels like. And they would have been better off just, in some ways, scrap the project and start again on this year's season, when it started up again, or next year when they can do an event properly, because again, it feels like it was being changed in the editing room.
Yeah. And it disappoints me because I really did want to like this, and I do want people to be more aware of what, like, at least in the States, your local high schools, your local college, not all of them, but at least one in your region is probably doing something like this. And they're doing cool things. They're not doing these,
No.
but they're doing cool things, and they're getting engagement from kids, which is ultimately what you really need them to do.
And I also feel like there must have been something much bigger because Lucasfilm were involved in this documentary.
Mhm.
Like I said, the Star Wars stuff just like vanished, and I think that was like okay, and I was like okay, I can see there's something going on here. With we're gonna get this, and it's like you guys haven't. There's like been like no mention of Star Wars for a while. It's like you can't bring on Mark Hamill and hype up this whole event, and you like, well, what's the challenge? He's got to throw a ball in the hoop. I don't remember that from the Star Wars.
Oh, no, it's him doing the trench run, and he's got to get the torpedo into the 2-meter hole, right? And that
Yeah, well, I
I'm
think
making
that's
this up.
yeah.
I'm making this up because the movie doesn't tell us.
It's like, and then the robot has to climb.
Yeah,
Why?
I didn't get that one. Yeah,
No.
I mean, I get it from a technical perspective. It's got to climb up onto this like hanger and then balance itself so that it's not on the ground. From a technical perspective, yeah, I get that. That's a really difficult thing to do. But narratively, you're like, what does this have to do with Star Wars at all?
I
Nothing.
don't know. No idea. Well, there we go. So that was this week's movies. It was a bit of an odd one. So next week, I'm trying to think what we've got next week. We've got
Well, we still have the Dropout is continuing on. We
yes.
keep pushing it back because there's more and more things to talk
Well,
about.
I think I'm kind of at a point because I think the series ends the beginning of April because I haven't watched this week's episode because I was up in London, but I was very much like it feels like a show that you kind of want to get to the end because we need to sort of be able to talk about it like properly. At which point Moon Knight is going to be kind of underway.
Right. But yeah, that's also kind of what I was talking about last week. It's like it feels like the end, but we still got 4 more episodes to go. And then there's this week's episode where you're like, oh, I won't spoil it for you since I know you haven't seen it yet, but it's like, oh, you've really set up the house of cards now, and it is going to be very dramatic when it falls. Yeah. I think I'm guessing we probably have 2 episodes before the house really starts to fall, but next week's episode is probably where all the cracks start to appear and the house starts to wobble quite a bit. It is really good, guys. We will at some point do a proper review of it, but if you've got Hulu or if you're International Star, this is a really good series.
Honestly, this is if you're only going to watch one thing, watch Dropout. It's fantastic. Stephen Fry's amazing in it. I'm grips. I'm literally just like it's like last night we were like there with like my wife was still. I can't wait till tomorrow to watch it and catch up, and then next week we'll be online with it. So this coming week, in terms of originals, we've got Parallels, which is a French original, and then we got the Olivia Rodrigo Driving Home to You premiere music special on Friday, along with the wonderful Spring of Mickey Mouse. So there's a couple of things next week.
Olivia, that's the girl from High School Musical, right?
Yeah. So that one should be interesting. So I will be watching that one. There will be a review up at the beginning of the week. I haven't watched it yet, but I will be watching that one. Parallels. Yes.
That's in French with subtitles, right?
It is subtitles. I did start watching it, but it was in subtitles, and then I kind of carry on. My dogs were going mental in the first scene because there was this dog that suddenly it's a time warp and it went back to being a puppy. The dogs were going bonkers, and it was subtitled, and I was just like, nope. I was just like, no, we're out. This is not going to work.
Well, not having dogs myself, I will give that a try. We'll talk about it next week.
I will be honest. I probably won't be carrying on because this is a thing with subtitle ones, and I said it with Snowdrop. I don't have if I'm going to watch like a series like this is something, especially when it's an international show. This is a second screen kind of show where I can't. I kind of thing. I just don't have the time to commit 6 hours or 3 to 6 hours to a show and sit there reading every. It's like, it's just not how I want to enjoy it. And it's dubbed. I put it on. If it was dubbed, I'd have just left it on, and I'd have left it on all day. But subtitles are just like I just don't have. I don't have the. You have to be really interested in a series and want to watch it to do subtitles. It's one thing even just for a movie, it's hard enough, let alone a series.
It depends on the thing. I watch a lot of subtitled stuff, so I'm pretty much used to it. The question I had: is this like Snowdrop in that they dropped the entire series all at once,
Yes.
or are we getting one episode?
No, the whole season is all dropping at once, so you get the whole lot on Wednesday.
Well,
so if you want to watch it, carry on. Yeah,
I've
given you my review. The first 5 minutes, the dogs hated it.
That is definitely a review.
My view was like, my view was like, no, it's like I've got GCSE in French. I can find my way to the station, order my food, and get around Disneyland Paris. That's pretty much, if I can't, that's the only time I've ever used my French was at Disneyland Paris on multiple occasions, and that's about as much as I need to. Like ordering food and finding out your hotel and so it's
yeah, I know like 3 phrases in French. I can count to 10. That's my French.
Yes.
So I'm not going to demonstrate it.
on that bombshell, au revoir.
Au revoir.
On that guy, see you guys. And I forgot before we head off, I just want to say a big hello and thank you to all of our patrons and YouTube channel members. I was supposed to do that before the reviews. So big thank you to Ben. We've also got Adam, Diona, Raphael, J Blue, Dana, Ricky, Dave, Mamad. We've also got My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. And also a huge thank you as well to our patrons, including Daniel, Elliot, Aero, Caleb, Red Marsman, Cody, Jacob, Darren, Lauren, and also big thank you to Andrew the Juice and Sarah. There'll be another live Q&A this coming Sunday. Again, time difference a little bit because of the US time difference is a bit different at the minute due to time savings. But on that note, guys, thank you very much for all of your support. Thank you very much for listening, and we shall see you guys soon. Laters.
Death to daylight savings time. Oh my God.
I think you are trying to get rid of it, but nevertheless,
we might be.
Laters. Later, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.